against a Colt team that found out on Saturday night that the Denver Broncos had not clinched a playoff spot, a Colt team that got to wake up on Sunday morning going, we're alive for the playoffs, and they allowed Drew Lock to do something that only the following names have done over the last 20 years. Phillip Rivers, Tom Brady, Peyton Manning. That is the kind of quarterback performance Drew Lock gave, a perfect quarterback performance.
Are you kidding?
I'm not kidding. I got to get back to the analytics stat on officially what it was, an EPA per play stat that I'm telling you was one from the gods, Tiki. That is what
EPA,
it took.
who don't know, it's expected points added. It's just essentially, are you helping your team score a point with that particular play? And he had a huge one.
Here it is. Here's the stat. And this is from Doug Analytics on Twitter. Drew Lock's plus 1.18 EPA per play today versus the Colts is the sixth best of any quarterback since 1999. The other quarterbacks to do this, 07 Peyton Manning versus the Ravens, 07 Phillip Rivers versus the Broncos, Lamar Jackson in 2019 versus the Bengals, Peyton Manning in 2002 versus, I guess he was with the Colts, 2007 Tom Brady versus the Dolphins. That is what Drew Lock did yesterday.
Yeah, and they scored 45 points.
45 points.
You see, almost, I kind of want to knock Dave for saying this, but I actually love that Dave said this after the game, where he says, hey, this is what happens when you have good quarterback play, because this is kind of what you envisioned when you thought about this offense this year, with the drafting of Malik Neighbors, the development as the season went on a little bit of Tyrone Tracy, obviously Wan'Dale Robinson, who some people don't think is panning out to where his draft status was, but Wan'Dale Robinson is one of the best possession guys in the league right now.
A guy with a good quarterback, I think, takes off.
The change of direction that you saw on his touchdown in the game yesterday was amazing. The catch, that corner route where he laid out for it, it was amazing. That 35-yard gain where he just settled down in the middle of a zone and caught it and broke a tackle. That's what you want for a guy who's not your ex number one, go make huge, 70-yard touchdowns. You want that type of player. So I think about like all these skill position players that this Giants team has, and I want to hit my head against the wall and say, why have we not seen that more often this year? Because it's not like the offensive line played great. It's not like the Indianapolis Colts didn't have a ton to play for.
Right.
But the Giants just kind of exercised their will from start to finish of this game.
Yeah, and I think that's why a lot of Giants fans today are frustrated, upset. Many were beside themselves, including myself.
Because they wanted the loss.
Well, this is the problem,
Forget
Tiki.
that, man.
Tiki,
go ahead.
And this is where I have to be in the therapist chair, because it's not just me. A lot of listeners are going to feel this way today. I don't blame a single soul in that locker room for going out and kicking ass yesterday. Okay, had to.
I think, you know what? They're playing for their jobs.
Yes,
a lot of those guys are.
Exactly. And Darius Slayton, who's a free agent, by the way, at the end of the year, who sat through a lot of losing, also been a part of a playoff team. He said after the game, "I'm not going out there to get my head taken off to lay down for some draft pick," and he's right. And there inherently, to me, lies a problem with the league that we've addressed.
Agreed.
All season long. Evan has gone back with this, and he's absolutely right. The fact that the NFL does not have a draft lottery and puts fans in the predicament they should. Every Giant fan on planet Earth, after the season we endured this year, should be able to have a Sunday in late December where the team scores 45 points at home. They avoid being a punching bag joke that they're the first team in since 9 home games to lose 9 games at home. They're in a 100th season to not lose every home game. This should be a day where Giant fans can smile and go, you know what, for 3 hours that felt good.
Yes.
Yet, I would venture to guess the majority of Giant fans feel so uncomfortable and so uneasy because of the damn NFL rules that now you're looking back and they're fourth and they're not just in the same hopper of a lottery to get the first pick.
I mean, it's also the narrative that's out there, and you see it everywhere. I mean, I flew home from Cleveland this morning. I did the Miami Dolphins Cleveland Browns game, and it was ugly.
Oh, believe me. As somebody with plenty of player prop bets in that game, it was ugly.
It was really ugly. But we couldn't get home from Cleveland because there's no flights that leave Cleveland after 7:15 or 7:30 or something. So we stayed another night in Cleveland. So I get up at 5 o'clock this morning so I can get on a plane and come back home. And as soon as I walk in my door, I'm like half asleep, half exhausted. I just lay on my office couch and just kind of close my eyes and turn the TV on, and SportsCenter's on. And you know what I hear? Giants screwed it up.
Yep.
The Giants have lost their chance to get the number 1 pick. And I know what they're saying. I know what all these pundits are talking about. But at the same time, why do you play sport? It is not to lose.
To win.
It is to win games. It is to better yourself. It is to create, if you're in a lost season like the Giants kind of are, build a foundation. Get comfort and belief and stars that you can cheer and root for and believe in, and set the stage for whatever comes next. And I bring that specific point up for a reason. Everybody wants the quarterback. That's all I keep hearing. Oh, we need Shedeur Sanders. We need Cam Ward. We got to get a quarterback. We got to get a quarterback. We got to get a quarterback. Well, I'm telling you, because I've seen it. And by the way, all of you have seen it as well. If you put a quarterback in a crappy situation, a terrible coaching, team, depth, whatever situation, they are going to fail. We saw it with Zach Wilson right here in New York City.
Yeah.
We saw it with Trevor Lawrence, as much as he got paid for whatever damn reason in Jacksonville, right? You saw it with Josh Rosen in Arizona. You see it over. You saw it with Trey Lance in San Francisco. And I know in San Francisco, they rebooted really quickly, and it's because a lot of it's because they had Jimmy Garoppolo and they got lucky with Brock Purdy. But when you put young quarterbacks in bad situations, good things don't happen. The Giants have to have a good situation to put whoever that next quarterback is in. So stop obsessing about the quarterback, because even if he's the greatest thing in the world and you put him in a terrible situation, he is going to fail, period.
I don't disagree with that. But again, I blame the NFL for this because it's such a quarterback-driven league now.
It is.
That unfortunately you feel like you have to trip all over yourself. But Tiki, that brings us to phase 2 off of this win yesterday.
Go ahead.
Okay, and I think there's a couple ways the Giants can go, and I think it's a couple nonsensical things. First and foremost, if the Giants are set on keeping Joe Schoen as the general manager of this football team, if that's what ownership views as the right move for this football team and this organization, then to me, we all must understand, Tiki, you're saying, whatever, feel this out with the quarterback. This general manager is going to be under immense pressure to get quarterback right.
Well, he's going to be under immense pressure to get a
quarterback.
Okay. Now, I don't know who that is.
I don't either.
Fans want to draft one because the holy grail is the young 21-year-old coming out of college who has not played even close to professional football. But I'll let you continue.
Okay. Yes, they do. And it feels like the Giants on private planes have spent a lot of money on sending Joe Schoen to look at Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders every single week. I mean, they are not hiding how much they've invested. So I will say that if Joe Schoen is staying here, understand that as the draft board sits now, the Giants are picking 4th overall. More on how that thing could change.
And it could, a lot.
They had many conversations with the Patriots last year, and the Patriots got their quarterback, wouldn't budge. I think that Joe Schoen will outbid the Raiders to move up. And now we could all scream and yell and say that's a bad idea. That's for another discussion, but I think the Giants will do that. So I don't think all hope is lost.
If they fall in love with either one of those quarterbacks, I would agree.
And this is where I believe Giants ownership, executive, everybody around has to have an honest assessment. Right now, the Giants, you wake up today, are picking 4th overall. Do you want to mortgage the future as an organization to trade up and get a quarterback? Because if you do not, to me, yesterday's win tells me you should fire Joe Schoen. Because I don't want a general manager feeling like their job is on the line and desperate to get something right that you are mortgaging a ton of the future for.
Right. So you don't want him to mortgage the future of someone else's regime.
Tiki, if you fire the general manager, then to me, a new general manager comes in, can breathe a little bit. Maybe they sign Justin Fields. Maybe they figure out whatever's going on with Darnold and J.J. McCarthy. Maybe they bring in Kirk Cousins.
Carson Wentz, perhaps.
Okay, if Carson Wentz goes off on Denver and that's the shiv back to the Eagles, fine. But the point is, they feel like they have time. This regime doesn't have time to get the quarterback right, so they are going to act desperate this year. Now, if you have no problem and you love Sanders or Ward and you're one of those people out there that did, then you shouldn't have a problem trading up because you know what? There's no price to pay too much if you hit on quarterback.
Right, if you know it's the right guy. If you believe it's the right guy. You've done the due diligence and you've evaluated him. He fits roster-wise. He fits leadership-wise, culture-wise. He's what the owner wants to be the representative for your team. Then you go get that guy no matter how much it costs.
Right.
But so, you better love him.
You better love him.
Not halfway, like all the way.
And I'm going to trust if they do that Schoen loves him. He's seen enough of these guys he's there every week. Now, I'm also operating under the assumption that what I just painted to you is not going to happen. I believe that they're going to keep Joe Schoen as the general manager.
Yeah.
And I believe truly, and I don't know this for a fact, but it just senses this way when you see how many coaching changes happen in season here, that the Giants have been looking for an excuse to keep this regime.
Yeah.
Okay?
Because they had plenty of excuses to fire
them. Okay? Right. I feel like they've been begging for stability and begging for an excuse. Yesterday was your excuse to keep them. And if it wasn't, I think it's borderline malpractice, Tiki. To me, Brian Daboll now should be the coach if you're going to keep Joe Schoen as the general manager week 1 next year. And for anybody that doesn't like Daboll, the head coach, I'm not arguing that. I'm just saying this. You allowed a head coach to feel desperate enough yesterday to go out there, go all out, coach his ass off like he should be doing as the head coach of the football team. But there was no wink-wink. If Loogie was here, he'd yell about tanking and all this. There was no wink-wink cahootsiness to this.
No.
He coached to win a game yesterday.
He did.
Coached a hell of an offensive scheme, found a unprepared Shane Steichen in that spot. And if you allow him to do that and win the game and then turn around and fire him a week later, what was the point?
Right.
What was the point? If you were going to fire it, don't let a coach feel like they are desperate to keep their job. Do what it takes to then keep the job and then fire them anyway. To me, that's running the organization backwards. I would have fired him weeks ago then.
Right. That doesn't. It wouldn't make sense to do it now.
Right.
Now, what happened in this game? They didn't technically, they didn't outplay necessarily the Indianapolis Colts because the Colts kind of went and scored and did what they wanted to do.
Alec Pierce is still wide open.
Right, but they missed a field goal. I missed a couple of kicks. They had 3 turnovers in this game. And
unbelievable interception by Dane Belton to start the game.
Ridiculous, right? And then gave up a 100-yard kickoff return.
Yeah.
So
how does that happen, Tiki? First time since Dwayne Harris in 2015.
In today's NFL,
How?
I have no idea.
Of all the things that happened for the Giants yesterday, to start the second half with that kick return,
right.
That was the moment I went from, I can't believe this is happening, to openly belly laughing and going, well, I can't stop this train.
Honestly, I got to give credit to Gabriel, the
special teams
coordinator, because the scheme where they replaced the second back guy, so the second returner came and filled the gap, and that one gap he filled looped around and like, I don't know, sealed off the one free kickoff cover defender, and it was a massive. It was like a trap play on a kickoff return, and it worked to perfection. So, but my point is, like, the Giants just executed at the right moments to beat a team that actually was playing really well offensively against them. You know what I mean? And so
Flacco was making the throws.
He was making the throws. Alec Pierce was constantly wide open. Deonte Banks, couldn't make a play defensively. They scored at will. Had a 26-yard touchdown where Cordell Flott just filled the wrong hole, the wrong gap integrity. It was just bad. And so it's not like the Giants just dominated them. They put up 45 points, but it was because they just made really great plays with some of their great players. And that's what you want. That's what you want to see when you have a coach who's on the quote-unquote hot seat. How are his guys playing for him? You see this with Antonio Pierce.
Yeah.
Right? AP might not be the best coach in the NFL right now, but I tell you what, his dudes are playing their ass off for him, and I felt like that is what you got yesterday from the Giants for Brian Daboll.
Well, clearly the players like playing for Brian Daboll. So, again, if I'm the New York Giants, I'm making a decision. If I'm comfortable trading up for a quarterback, if I'm an owner saying, you know what, we have to go all out and trading up, then I'm keeping this regime. If I'm not, then I think Joe Schoen should go because you don't want a general manager feeling desperate. But above anything else, if Schoen is staying, you cannot break them up now and fire Brian Daboll, because otherwise you just allowed a guy with no future with this organization to determine the future of this organization. 888-808-1019. We will take your calls on the Giants here. It's Evan and Tiki on the Fan when we come back as well. On top of the calls, I know, because I feel it too, how upset some Giants fans are to win. But I'm here to tell you, I still think the Giants are picking number 2 overall and getting one of the quarterbacks. And I will explain how. We're coming to you live from the Town Fair Tire Studios, powered by Town Fair Tire. Nobody beats Town Fair Tire. Nobody.